And we're live. What's going on, everyone? It's live with Kenny, episode 36. And today we'll be talking about how Victimhood has become a status game, also some media news, and also talk about the defense bill that recently passed this week. It's been a hectic week. And for some reason, it seems like identity politics has been heavy on the news this week. I don't know what's going on. I feel like a lot of people are so focused on race and trying to prove that racism is the biggest determinant on Black people's lives. And I just want to give some quick monologue here about that. Is that I don't think the outcomes within the Black community it could be based on action, but not on perception. Regardless if a group of people like Black people or not, internal problems, internal decision makings within the community has a bigger impact than outside influences, right? Or you could look back in the 1920s, during the most racist time in American history, Black people, from an economic perspective, were more successful, graduating college at a higher rate than Blacks today. How is it that when white people were at their worst, Black people were at their best, but now that white people are at their best, Black people seem to be at their worst? And it always clarifies something. Just because something sounds good doesn't make it actually good. So let's get into the first story. Brian Carlson. I can't say this name. I don't know why. I always mispronounce it. But he has a brother that I just did a video earlier today talking about racism. And both the Carlson brothers seem to be so fixated on racism. So I want to read this article because recently it has come out that banks turned down Black people more than any other group of people in America. Who would have thought, right? And I retweeted this, I quote tweeted this, but I'm gonna give my commentary on this. So let's read his message, his commentary on this, and then I'll give my response. Holy crap, this is sad. How is this not racism on full display? Am I missing something? You are. According to the data from Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the largest credit union in the U.S., Navy Federal, approved a higher percentage of applicants from white borrowers making less than $62,000 a year than they did Black borrowers making $140K more. CNN found that Black applicants to Navy Federal were more than twice as likely to be denied as white applicants, even when there were more than a dozen different variables, including income, debt to income ratio, property value, down payment percentage, and neighborhood characteristics were the same. I know some people will now attack me for bringing this up. He spelled bringing wrong, but who cares? But if you were the one being discriminated against here, I think you would be angry too, wouldn't you? I didn't see, how you saw it, credit score here, right? Because even though I had, I remember the first time I had a car loan at the ripe young age of 21 years old, I had like a 720 credit score. And I thought, hey, I'm going to get a good terms on my car loan. And I got a higher interest rate on my car loan because I have never managed credit before. They were like, oh, yeah, you got a good credit score. Yeah, but you never had a car payment before. So you're seen as a risky lender and you're putting down less than 20% down. So you're seen as a risky borrower. So I got a higher interest rate. So, me being the strategic man that I am, I decided, hey, I'll take the 9% car payment for 7 years. Because that was the only loan I can qualify with a 720 credit score at the time. And I was 21 years old. So then I take the 9% car loan for 7 years. And after 6 months of paying that thing consistently, I refinanced with my personal bank and got it down to 4.3% for 3 years loans. And here we are today with a paid off car. All I'm trying to say with this is that I can't control what happens to me. And this is a message I'll put against any person who feels like their identity is holding them back. You can't control what happens to you. You only can control how you respond. And people like Brian, they think they're doing good. They think they're trying to expose some great evil in the world. But all he's really doing is trying to get people to pay attention to the wrong thing that doesn't actually affect the outcomes that they're looking for. Because we already have things that's anti-discriminatory. We already have laws on the books. If these people feel like they're discriminated against, they can go ahead and sue. But we already saw what happened when you give people a banking loan because they happen to be Black. We saw what happened. Bill Clinton was a prime example. He forced these larger credit unions to give loans to black people or less qualified borrowers, even at the risk that they had. And what happened? You had 2008. People were losing houses left and right. To the point of the same people that were complaining, oh, it's unfair that I can't get my house. I want my house. Bill Clinton, do something. And the department, and he sicked the federal government on the banks. And the bank's like, okay, we'll give them the loan. 2008 happened, and the same people were like, man, there should be a law that prevents people who are high-risk borrowers from getting a loan. Well, it baffles me how ignorant sometimes people can be, right? Even if they have all these same issues, do they have experience with the loans that they were applying for? Because that's what happened to me. I wanted a 3-year loan at 21 years old, early in my career, and the bank's like, no, you only qualify for a 7-year, 9% loan. Why? Because I was seen as a high-risk borrower. Why? Because I had no credit history when it came to auto loans. I only had credit history when it came to credit cards. Did they take that into consideration? But it's the same thing, the same liberal tactics. They wanted to be racism. This is racism unless you can prove other factors were involved or this report is wrong. Agreed. I mean, I guess it's possible that other factors were involved, but according to the data, it appears that they normalize the other important variables. I see it didn't mention credit rating as a variable. You don't think that's important? Experience with said loan application, you don't think that's important? These people, these liberals, this is why I'm starting to get not stressed out, but I'm starting to get annoyed with these liberals a little bit. Like it seems like they want race to be the issue. It's like they're fishing for racism. I need to confirm my conclusions about the world. And they've been on this crusade to prove it to be true. But I digress. Let's move on to the next topic. So, next Twitter dive we're doing. Christopher Rufo has a shocking, stat or poll or survey, whatever this is. Shock. 79% of Americans between 18 to 24 believe that white people are oppressors and that this ideology should be favored today at universities and for employment. The racial renegades have begun. 2/3 of voters oppose an ideology that white people are oppressors, and almost 7 in 10 find this ideology harmful to society. There is an ideology that white people are oppressors and non-white people and people of certain groups have been oppressed, and as a result should be favored today at universities for employment. Do you support or oppose this ideology? 65% oppose. Even though, as the younger you get, 79% of them support this. And does it strike me to me? It strikes to me that it seems like younger people are very, naive about how the world actually is, because they're sitting here saying, "Oh, look, white people are oppressors," and the young people support it. 18 to 24 people, kids in the age range between 18 and 24 support that. They believe in the idea that white people are oppressors, and you wonder why the youth of today is so fragile. Why, when you go on TikTok, it's just, I don't know what you call TikTok. All I know is I can't watch it I can't stay sane if I see TikTok. I don't know how my wife do it. Right? But this is what I'm talking about. Diversity is conformity. White guilt is conformity. They want you to be guilty. Oh, you're a white person, feel guilty, and they feel guilty about themselves. So they say, oh, this is what we're supposed to say. We let the liberals take over the education system. Oh, this is what we're supposed to say. This is what we're supposed to believe. 12 years in school, from 6 years old till 18 years old. Liberal values, wokeness, DEI, all these liberal initiatives have been funneled and transmitted to our children. Kids spend more time with their teachers than they do with their parents. And you wonder why these kids come out woke, right? We wonder why a lot of our college age young people are susceptible to this type of messaging. Why, when they grow up, they become like Brian Cassenstein. I don't know how to say his last name. Sorry if I butcher it. And immediately look for any correlation that justifies his view that racism is the cause of every disparity between white and black people. This is how we get conditioned into this. And then it leads into Hollywood. As soon as this thing loads up. But then it leads up into what Hollywood is doing now. There's a movie, forgot what it was called. Forgot what the movie is called. Sorry, guys. It's a 48 minute 48-minute video that I want to sit down and watch with you guys. So let's take a look. Hollywood is completely captured by woke. This is not fake. This is a real movie. He who controls the youth controls the future. This is a real movie. The most dangerous animal on earth, white people. Is this racist? If there was a movie that said the most dangerous animal on the planet, black people, and statistically, you can kind of make an argument that that's the case. How is a population that's only 30% of the population is committing almost 38% of the crime? How is a population that victimizes its own people at a higher disproportional rate than any other group of people in the world? In America. You can make an argument, but something with no evidence, no facts. Oh no, white people are the most dangerous people on the planet, are the most dangerous animal on the planet, according to woke movie right here. Let's take a look.
I know you can feel their discomfort, Aaron. Watching you walk through a room full of white people was the most painful thing I've ever seen.
Excuse me. Sorry.
I don't want to take you to a job interview. There's a recruiting class starting right now, and we got to get you in it.
Whew. I just wanted to pause real quick. As you saw, nothing more uncomfortable than walking through a room filled with white people. Isn't this kind of encouraging racism from black people? Because this is how we get into a domino effect, right? And this is something I've been trying to warn for a long time. Not a long time, but this is why I try to warn, like when I was talking to Jewish people and people are becoming anti-Semitic towards them, is that they let things like this slide. Oh, yeah, it's just a woke movie. We can ignore it, whatever. We don't condemn it. We don't speak out against it, whatever. And then these people who this movie is supposed to be catered to, I'm assuming it's supposed to be catered to black people, just like Get Out was catered to black people. And it's going to put this certain perception on black people. Like, oh, we can think this way. Look at it. It's on the big screen. Hollywood's endorsing this. They're allowing us to play this. That means what this is not racism. Calling white people the most dangerous animal on planet Earth isn't racism. Oh, okay. How is this not going to encourage escalation? You're literally demonizing a group of people based on their race. This movie is encouraging it. This movie is allowing it. And then when these same black people who tend to be also what? I'm being honest here. Anti-Semitic sometimes, right? You got Kanye West, Kyrie Irving is kind of debatable there, but, right? Y'all would get mad about them talking about Jewish people, but they already have the playbook. It's a pattern of behavior you already established within this racial group. Oh, it's okay when we do it. Anyone else is bad because we're the biggest victims. And this is why I said victimhood has become a status game. Let's continue with the movie clip because I didn't want to get copyrighted with the music background. So let's get back into the video.
Welcome to the American Society of Magical Negroes.
I don't really understand.
It's easier to say. What's the most dangerous animal on the planet?
Shark.
White people, when they feel uncomfortable.
White people when they feel uncomfortable. I don't know about that. I honestly don't know about that. They're trying to play into a narrative, right? And I'm gonna mute this because I'm really skeptical about the music being played in the background. But just look at the imagery. White cop, he sees two black men. That never happened in real life before. That never happens. Most of the time, if a person is interacting with a cop, the cop is responding to something. It's not like you're walking randomly in the street and this happens. Either they're responding to a call that was made in the area, you happen to fit the description, and usually when a shootout happens, usually because the suspect, the person they think it could be the guy they're trying to verify, or resist arrest. That's usually what happens to negative interactions between cops and black people. Now, I know most black people aren't criminals, so this is not a problem for most black people. That's the assumption I'm making. That's the theory I'm making. But if you think majority of black people are criminals, then you will believe the narrative that police brutality is a thing in the black community. It's not. Not for not for most black people. Police brutality is only a problem that criminals worry about because criminals resist arrest. Criminals run away from the law, and usually that escalates their interactions, and usually something dangerous happens. But I digress. So he got the white tears. So it's bleeding in woke concepts. not even woke concepts. This is anti-racism concepts that's being bled into movies. This is why I can't go to movie theaters anymore. I can't. Our culture is rotting at this point. If this keeps up, we may return to segregation. Before I die, segregation may become a thing again. If it keeps going like this. Y'all trying to prove Scott Adams right. These anti-racist people. Let's look at some of the comments. The kind that is meant to further demonize white people. They're trying to force division and hate on a country that can care less about skin color anymore. Facts. That's the truth. That's the truth. America was once black people's greatest oppressors. Now it is black people's greatest liberators. Since 1991, the best place to be black is here in America. The richest black people live here. If you're a black American, you're considered the top 1% of black people in the entire world. Even the poorest black person lives better than most people globally in the world. Yet here you are complaining about this country, about how racist it is. When you have more rights than most majority black countries. If you go to a majority black country right now, you will have a lower level of living. But here you are complaining. Here you are on a majority white country making a movie that demonizes most of them. And then when this movie bombs, you're going to claim racism. Imagine that. Imagine putting out a racist movie with racist undertones. Get mad that the people who you're making racist undertones against do not show up for your racist movie. And then claim that the people who are attacked, who are demonized by your movie, don't show up to support it, and then call them racist because they don't want to support the movie that demonizes and characterizes them in a negative light based on no actual reality. This is crazy. This is some craziness, man. And this is why I stand up to it, because I call it down the middle. I can't, it's a two-way street. I can't condemn racism for one side and then encourage it on another. That makes no logical sense to me. I like consistency. But it seems like a lot of people don't. And this is the part of the DEI playbook that we're starting to realize. Affirmative action is racism under new management. We're giving preferential treatment to people merely by the color of their skin. So Democrats before, they used to be racist against black people. Now they're being racist for black people. And they call it anti-racism. Because they believe in some weird way allowing black people to be discriminatory, to be racist, somehow corrects racism that happens in the past when every black person currently living today has never experienced slavery. Right? The younger folk who this movie is supposed to be catered to has probably experienced less racism than their grandparents faced, than their parents faced. The least racist time. White people are the least racist in history in 2023. Yet you make a movie demonizing them. Yeah, that's not going to play out well. But hey, this is the reality we all live in today. All right. So I'm gonna move on to the next story. So Tucker Carlson has opened up a new news network, and I'm so happy for him. I think this is going to be the future of media. I think everyone's going to come in with their own. I always talk about it. It's going to be decentralized information. I believe everyone's going to get their information from different sources, different, perspectives. And I think gone are the days is going to be some big conglomerates like Fox News, CNN type. I think the information is going to be more decentralized because I think social media, pre-research studies already show that most millennials, Gen Z, they get their news from social media. Usually when something goes viral on social media, it gets more eyeballs than a cable news network watching it on television. So honestly, I think this is a smart move by Tucker Carlson. I want get into the video real quick. So I'll share the video and I'll give my voice a little break.
Hey, it's Tucker Carlson. Something big is coming. You can probably feel it. Everybody can feel it. The next 12 months is going to be a wild time, probably like nothing any of us has ever seen. An economic meltdown, an unresolvable presidential race, unprecedented global migration, entire populations moving from continent to continent, metastasizing foreign wars, chaos. Suddenly, everything seems at stake. control of the world, and of your soul. How are you going to respond to all of this? The first step is knowing what's actually happening. That's not easy. Who's an ally? Who's an enemy? You can't always tell. What's true and what's a lie? Sometimes it's hard to know. There's so much deception. Big media companies won't help. Their job is to manipulate you. The government? Please. When was the last time you believed a word they said? Probably before COVID. We've been thinking a lot about all of this for the past 8 months. We've traveled to various countries around the world to see what America looks like from far away. Sometimes distance gives you perspective. We've decided that we need something new, something relentlessly honest that the corporate gatekeepers can't touch. So we built a company called Tucker Carlson Network. We'll be rolling it out starting now. You may have already seen some of our content on X. Expect a lot more of that. Interviews, documentaries, analysis, facts, and honesty every day. We've got a lot of good people working on this, and we think it's going to make a difference. You can head to tuckercarlson.com to learn more. We hope you will. Thanks.
So yeah, Tucker Carlson, TCN. That's a nice ring to it. Hey, welcome on TCN. Like it's a good naming clip, right? And I found a cool meme that kind of explains what's going on here. Mainstream media crumbling down. So that pretty much sums up what's going on. I think mainstream media is on its way out. Honestly, I think this is a smart move by Tucker Carlson. I really like this individual civilian journalism, just decentralized information, because it's hard to discredit. It's like, for instance, Fox News, right? People are like, oh, you got your information from Fox News. But imagine if you got your information from different segmented voices. It's like, oh yeah, this person brought up this fact. You have to attack the message. You can't attack the messenger. And that's been our political discussion for a long time. Oh, don't attack what's the information given. No, attack the messenger. Oh, you got it from Fox News? It's biased information. That's not objective. I got my information from 3 sources, even though these 3 sources are all liberal. But yeah, I got 3 sources. You only got 1 because only Fox News is willing to talk about that issue. Right? And I think this is very important to decentralize information, because it makes it harder to cancel decentralized organizations, different perspectives, different viewpoints. And I think what Tucker Carlson is doing is a great way of counter challenging corporate media. And I think in a couple of years they're on their way out, and this is on his way in. And I think it's a smart business move on his part. But I digress. I want to talk into a next part. So we're going to be talking about political issues, and this is a Thomas Sowell video where he talks about essentially how it seems like our leadership class, the political class in America and in most Western countries too, they seem to be wanting to dumb down the population, because they realize that a dumb population is a more controllable population. Is a saying, it's a Roman saying, the bread in the circus entertain you and feed you free food and all this stuff to distract the people from what's actually going on in the government. And I believe we're in a similar time like this now. I realized this when that trend was going on about how often your boyfriend thinks about Rome. And I think about Rome a lot. You know, obviously I have Seneca here, Marcus Aurelius, which is, so I think about Rome a lot. And I noticed a lot of the mistakes that we're making here as a country too. And I think one of the ways that I think I'm trying to fight against this is trying to give my perspective, try to educate people, try to point people to some of the information that I reference, some of the insights that I gain, and kind of challenge the prevailing assumption that's currently going on in our society, and find like-minded people online to help push the message forward and try to counteract a lot of this mess that's been going on in our political system. But that's a long diatribe for me. Let's get into the video, and as usual, I'll give my commentary throughout. Let's go.
Political issues. If you took all the deception and fraud out of politics, there might not be a lot left. Nor is this peculiar to our own country or our time. Back in 18th century England, Adam Smith referred to that insidious and crafty animal, vulgarly called a statesman or politician, whose counsels are directed by the momentary fluctuations of affairs. Yet large segments of the public, across the political spectrum, continue to look to political messiahs for solutions to our problems. To understand political issues, you have to understand the incentives facing the politicians who frame those issues and craft solutions. To expect politicians to put the public interest above their own personal interests is to defy thousands of years of history in countries around the world.
And that's one thing I want to kind of focus on, is the timeless wisdom that we can learn from history in the past, right? And I think the greatest America that we can have, because right now America's being dismantled right now because we look at politicians as leaders instead of as just representatives. They represent an idea that the voting base wants to push forward, right? And that's how I tend to think about politics. I don't look at politicians as saviors, as leaders. I just see them as an extension of something that I want done, and they merely represent me and in that effort, right? So I think as Americans, I think one of the biggest paradigm shift that needs to kind of spread in our politics is voters need to be more skeptical of their politicians as a whole. Because I think voters right now, we're too, I say, partisan, too tribal, I guess, because we no longer have a unifying foundation as voters anymore, right? Before in the past, you can find voters being like, oh, I'm a Reagan Democrat, right? You don't have people like that anymore in today's modern politics. I think people are pushing more for, I think people lost the concept of politics. I think politics should be about solving problems, right? Hey, whatever solution has a higher probability of fixing it, we'll try it. Hey, bad ideas, cut our losses. But that's not how politics goes. Politics is this game of smoke and mirrors where they want to give the illusion that they're doing something, when in reality, they're only delaying the inevitable, where they're kicking the can down the road, essentially, to make good on things that benefit them right now. Oh, I want to get re-election. Hey, this Social Security stuff is not maintainable, but if I go against it, if I try to solve it now, I'm gonna lose my seat. So I'm gonna pass it forward, pay it anyway, and kick the can down the road so some other Congress can worry about this problem. And this is the cycle that we're caught up in right now in American politics. Right? This is what happened with the defense bill. Oh, we only got a month left before government shutdown again. And government shutdown is going to look bad on us. So we're going to make compromises that effectively kind of keep us at the same spot we've always been. It's just we kick the can down the road another year, or we kick the problems down to another Congress. And currently, politics is not set up to actually solve problems for the long term. And I think currently, if we want to see a change in politics, and it starts right now. Like right now, I know people are complaining about the defense bill, and I see issues with it as well. I see that in the future going forward, let's try to weed out politicians that would pass a defense bill at the expense of its citizenry, its people, right? And in the future, we create an America that's vigilant and watchful and skeptical of the government. Therefore, the government actually has to do right by the people and not by themselves or their political tribe. I think that's the solution I think a lot of Americans can agree to, but I digress. Let's get back into the video.
Exceptional leaders in exceptional times may put the nation's well-being ahead of their own interests. But to bet the survival of a nation on having an unbroken succession of exceptional leaders would be one of the most reckless gambles imaginable. In a democracy especially, an informed and skeptical citizenry is a crucial bulwark against the short-sighted political expediency which remains as much the norm among crafty politicians today as it was in Adam Smith's time. One of the trends that can become part of a perfect storm of disasters for American society has been a decades-long dumbing down of education, producing a citizenry poorly equipped to see through political rhetoric, and even more poorly supplied with facts and the ability to analyze opposing arguments.
Yep, I agree with that synopsis, and I think that's one of the biggest issues. There's a concept called rational ignorance, where the effort it takes to learn the information, many people can logically conclude it's not worth me learning this stuff, so I'm not going to take time to learn it. And politics tend to fall under this concept, this category, Because in our American schools, we have not done a good job, how you say it, teaching civics, understanding politics and government, because it relies a lot on the teacher themselves to actually teach this information. And I think this is the kind of thing that I think parents could start taking more ownership of. I want to start a culture where, oh, you don't learn civics, you don't learn much civics in high school and college, and not college. If you were a political science major, you learn about government. But in high school, you don't learn it much. Hey, that should be something that we should incentivize in our American culture. Just like we incentivize cultural trends, like what's a cultural trend that I can think of in the top of my head? Gentle parenting, right? We can push that. How about we start pushing trends about, hey, teaching your kids civics from your perspective? Why can't we start a trend like that? And this is the kind of things I want to kind of focus with politics. I kind of look at politics from a solutions point of view, not I'm just trying to get my guy to win. I believe my guy has the better opportunity. No, sorry, the better idea to solve said problems. I agree with that. I believe my political philosophy is better equipped to fixing the issues and problems that we have today. I agree with that. The problem is that it fixes things in the long term, not in the short term. In the short term, people want what's expedient for them. And for ignorant people, for people that think fast, for a reactionary culture that is America, because America has become a reactionary culture. All you have to do is look at TikTok, right? We react to trends. We give our opinion. We do this. We don't properly think things through from a long-term perspective and see the long-term ramifications for caving into something expedient today, right? And I noticed this too. Like, we have a problem with delayed gratification. So when someone gives us a promise, oh, we're going to give you change now. We're going to promise you reparations, even though reparations is not possible. But the fact someone sold you that idea, and it fulfills an immediate need or a perceived need, you go ahead and you give your vote to the candidate that promised you reparations. And then 4 years later, oh, we tried. Yeah, they're going to try to get reparations, but they can't get you reparations because it's only an idea that's popular with the Democratic Party. It's not popular with independents. It's not popular with Republicans, because people ain't going to pay people who never been slaves and people who never been slave owners. They don't want to pay. They don't want to pay. They had nothing to do with slavery. You had nothing to do with slavery. The only thing you got going for you is that you might be a descendant of a slave. We have no way of vetting that you are actually a descendant of a slave. You just know you're a multi-generational American, so you claim you're a descendant of slaves. Like, it's just baffling to me that a lot of people put their own individual needs at the expense of the country, the society, and the culture. And I think that too many of us are doing that right now, to the point where it's so easy. This is why they say divide and conquer. This is why they say the government divide people on racial groups. And this is why I think victimhood, this is the real I think this is the real reason why identity politics is pushed on us so heavily, is because they want white people bickering with black people. They want straight people bickering with homosexual people, transgender people bickering with gay people. One side thinks gender is fluid. One people think, no, it's hardwired in you. I was born this way, right? But I chose to be this way, right? All this is because it takes attention away from what the government is doing. And I think that's the biggest political issue of our time, is that America needs to stand united. America needs to have a common interest, a common goal. And I think that's been deteriorated because the powers that be, the Hollywood, they put this perception that, oh, multiculturalism. And all it did was, okay, you're saying multiculturalism. You fragmented all of America into separate cultures where they no longer have a shared unified foundation. And I think that's the biggest problem that America faces right now. This is why I like Vivek so much when he talks about national identity, because I think that's the key of turning the country back and actually finding candidates, politicians, and solutions that will actually create some change in America. But I think it's going to be a long-term fix, not a short-term fix. And I think in the short term, we'll be suffering a lot. We'll have to make a lot of sacrifices if we want to get a better tomorrow. But I think it's worth it. But what we're going through right now is a lot of people are not having kids. So now a lot of Americans are not thinking about the future. They're thinking about what they can get right now. and they don't care. Oh, I get reparations. It doesn't matter in 20 years. We bankrupt the country. As long as I get my reparations, I'm good. And this is the kind of short-term thinking that politicians use against voters to stay in power, get what they want, and then they fleece the government. They fleece the voters, and they stay in power and control. So I do believe that America has been intentionally dumbed down so politicians can pull the wool over many voters' eyes. That's why I say most voters, majority of voters, are politically low information voters. I'll say that's the majority. I think only a minority are highly knowledgeable or moderately knowledgeable about politics. And my job, I think, in 2024 is I want to create more politically informed voters, regardless of political affiliation, to the point where they can debate me on my topics, regardless if they agree with me or not. I think that's the future that I am envisioning, but maybe I'm being too optimistic about that. I can't really change much in a year, but that's the attempt here. But I digress. Let's get back into the video. I've been ranting too long.
I don't have to worry about putting gas in my car. I don't have to worry about paying my mortgage. You know, if I help him, he's going to help me.
Thousands of students graduate each year from even the most prestigious schools and
imagine thinking that someone could help you pay your mortgage. That's not the government's job. The government is a referee. That's my view. That's my political view. The government is a referee. You don't come in and expect the referee to help you make your free throws, help you make your shots, call fouls on your behalf. You're asking for a rigged system, and that's not a fair system. The worst thing the government can say is, I'm here to help. But, you know, people, I need my immediate needs. If you promise me this, you got my vote. And this is what politicians prey on. I digress.
Colleges in the country with no real knowledge of history and no real analytical skills at dissecting opposing views. It was once the proud boast of educators that we are here to teach you how to think, not what to think. But today, all too many educators see the classroom as a golden opportunity for them to indoctrinate a captive audience.
Or transmit their values, right? And that's what I want to bring back in YouTube. I want to bring back people. I'm not going to tell you what to think. I'm not even going to teach you how to think. You come to your own conclusions. I'm giving you what I think, right? And I'm trying to advocate. I'm coming from an advocacy point of view of, hey, this is a conservative thing. This is why I think it's good. Yeah, I'm just making arguments on what I believe to be true. And for too long, and that's why I pointed out with the problem with the education system is that the Department of Education, a lot of these bureaus in the administrative state, they're overrun by Democrats. I think about 93%. Give me the department. Give me the Department of Justice, Education. Most of the people that work in those government jobs, those administrative jobs in the bureaus, overwhelmingly Democrat. 93% Democrat. They donate Democrat. So you don't think they're trying to slip into the curriculum their values, try to teach people to have a worldview that leans towards them? This is why that's why I like Vivek. Cut the FBI. I say it. Abolish the Department of Education. FBI go bye-bye, because these are becoming partisan political tools to use against the political opposition of the day. And it don't matter who's the president, these administrative states are still overwhelmingly Democrat. So the only logical conclusion in my view is to abolish them, cut them off. Because the only way this would be something in, like, if it's a bureaucratic if it's an administrative state like the FBI, excuse me, I think it should be mandatory that the FBI is politically partisan. No, so bipartisan, sorry. That means it's 50-50. It can't be overwhelmingly one side or overwhelmingly the other. Because I think this is where you get in these power trips where you got Eric Garland. Was it Eric Garland? No. Merrick Garland. Sorry, that's how you say his name. Pretending he don't know that his FBI agents is going after Catholics. He plays dumb. Like, oh, I don't know. The Homeland Security guy. Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not aware of that. But you're the director. You're the head of the whole Homeland Security. You're not aware of what's going on? You're neglecting your duties then. Because they want to push their political agenda. Political bias is a big thing that I think we need to worry about in the government. And I think our government is not really worried about solving problems for America because they know Americans are not paying attention to actually hold them accountable for that. And I think until that change, I think it's going to keep going. It's going to continue happening. But I digress. Let's get back.
The specifics of their indoctrination are not the biggest problem. Quite aside from the merits or demerits of the specific indoctrination, whether global warming or the new trinity of race, class, and gender, what the indoctrination process does is get students used to hearing one side of issues and being urged to reach conclusions and act on that grossly inadequate basis. Such an education sets them up to become victims of the next skilled demagogue who comes along and who knows what kinds of rhetoric will get them to respond as automatically as Pavlov's dog.
Wow. So the argument here is, and I agree with this argument, is the reason why Democrats hold on so heavily to the teachers' unions, why the teachers' unions hate the fact that conservatives are passing universal school choice in their states, why they hate that parents are pushing for school choice, why they hate the fact that, oh no, you're going to defund government schools, because government schools has been the entity in which they pass down a lot of these values, these ideologies to condition the youth of our future. And this is what socialists have always been doing. The long march to the institution. This is how you radicalize young people. This is how you get young people to support that white people are oppressors at 18 to 24 because they already been conditioned to come to these conclusions. And you're merely giving them the bait. They've been trained, they've been conditioned to automatically come to these conclusions. Oh, that's not racist. Why? Because you're black. Well, isn't that racist? Oh, no. It's because of racism. Years of racism. This is how these college students come to these conclusions. This is how you get media overwhelmingly liberal. Journalists overwhelmingly liberal. Because they've been conditioned to be this way. And they already come to a certain conclusion, and all they're trying to do is trying to find validation for that conclusion. Because that's how they've been taught. Because that's the right answer, right? In school, they don't teach you how to think. They teach you to find the right answer. So when you hear rhetoric, oh, I know what the right answer to this is. Say it with me. Systematic racism. If you see a disparity and you see a correlation with race, your automatic conclusion should be because of racism. Not because of, oh, maybe they're doing different actions. Maybe they display different behaviors. Maybe they made different decisions. Maybe their conditions are not quite the same. But no, it's racism because of their race. This is why they get denied bank loans more than other white people, regardless of their income. Oh, did you check credit score? Oh, no, that's not a valuable standard to judge the things by. That's not an important standard. Previous history with loans? No, that's not an important standard. You see how they omit facts to fit a narrative because they already been taught what the proper conclusion is for these things, and that's the big problem we face in our education system, in our culture, is that we have allowed liberals, progressives, the Democrats to condition the youth to be susceptible to their conclusions, to their prescriptions, to their rhetoric. And we're making a similar comeback online, on social media, but this is why the left loves censorship so much. Because they don't want us to be able to do the same thing that they've been doing for decades. But I digress. Let's get back into the video.
Too often, voting is conceived as some sort of expressive outlet for the voters, rather than as a solemn responsibility to pick the best people to lead the country. The emphasis is on getting as high a voter turnout as possible, even if that means pulling into the process people who have only the most meager knowledge or interest in the issues at hand.
Who is Joe Biden?
Joe Biden? I heard his name. Joe Biden.
Why they gotta do him like that?
Doesn't ring a bell.
Who is Joe Biden?
The secretary, or I don't know.
Secretary of I don't know. Okay.
Such people cannot preserve freedom, or perhaps even survival, in
these people. These are the kind of people that gets duped. That is the average voter. This is why I said the Democrats, they have a majority on the uneducated, low information vote. Because if you look at Hollywood, they push their political ideology. I just showed you the movie, The Magical Negroes. That's what the movie is called. Who pushed that? Liberals. That's in the culture right now. Who's susceptible to the culture? The youth. Hollywood, overwhelmingly liberal. You look at the news, majority of news outlets are liberals. Majority of journalists that report the news are liberal. They vote Democrat, they donate Democrat. The Department of Education people, overwhelmingly Democrat. Teacher unions, overwhelmingly Democrat. So when these people when they push, we want maximum voter turnout. They like to frame it as a good thing. Like, oh my God, you guys are trying to stop people from voting with their rights. While the conservatives say, yo, it's not responsible for low information people to be voting, because then it allows unqualified politicians to win elections. And that's what happened. Demagogues is what we usually call them, right? They don't look at the substance. Okay, can this actually, what's good policies in the past? No. Low information voters care. They're usually one issue voters, or they like to play narratives. That's why they always try to focus on, we got to look presidential. No mean tweets on Twitter. That's what low information voters focus on. And this is what the left try to frame and portray. Oh, he's a bad man. Instead of looking, would he help us? Would he help America or hurt America? Our image. You care. These low information voters care about superficial stuff instead of substantive stuff. Hey, was you better under Trump or Biden? How you like those gas prices under Trump over Biden? How you like inflation under Trump versus Biden? Border security. Oh, look, there was not a lot of strain on your social systems because of the stance that Trump take. But people don't think that deeply about things. They focus on the narrative. What's the cool thing to do? And this is what the Democrats leverage. This is why they care about voter turnout, because they know, hey, the odds are in our favor that majority of the people will be Democrat leaning, even if they're a low information voter, because it's culturally cool to vote Democrat. The Rock endorsed them. Cardi B endorsed Joe Biden. Oh, I don't even know who Joe Biden is. I'm not sure if he's the president, statesman. I don't know what he is, but Cardi B said I gotta vote for him. So if I see his name, I'm voting for him. This is how you get sheeple. And this is most of the population, unfortunately. But I digress. Let's continue.
In the face of politicians looking out solely for their advantages of the moment. Not all political leaders are like that, of course. Perhaps the most striking examples to the contrary were the men who created the United States of America and wrote the Constitution. But it is well worth noting that most of these men were not career politicians. They had very different careers that they put aside in order to serve in extraordinary and historic times. We cannot wait for another such remarkable set of leaders and circumstances to come along again, for a whole society can be destroyed from within or without long before there is such an assemblage of leaders again. When Benjamin Franklin was asked what the Constitutional Convention was producing, he replied, "A republic, madam, if you can keep it." Those who wrote the Constitution of the United States understood that a self-governing society was an experiment, and one that was not guaranteed against failure. Generations later, Abraham Lincoln raised the question whether government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. Today, perhaps more so than ever, it is the people who ultimately will provide the answer to that question.
Yep.
And that answer is by no means guaranteed.
Yep. It's a great poetic way to end the video, right? And that is essentially, that's the truth. It's up to us. Like, if we want this place if we want America to stay America, it's up to the people. And the left seems to know this. The progressives always knew this. Repeat a lie often enough, and the people will believe it to be true. So we must repeat the truth often enough until people understand it is true. And I think that's the only way you can fight it. Fire with fire. This is why they censor people, because they don't want this tactic to be used, right? A lie only works if it's repeatedly heard and goes unchallenged. This is why they care about popular opinion, whether instead of worrying about if something's true or not. They worry about, oh, did I convince you of my ideas or not? They don't care if it's true or not. If they lie about Mitt Romney to win the election, that's a win in their eyes. While we care about, is what I'm saying about this candidate true? I'm only going to focus on true and substantive stuff. They don't care about that stuff. They leverage any means necessary. So I'm going to run through the stories real quick. House passed defense bill with extension of controversial surveillance tooling. The House Representative overwhelmingly approved a Congress bill of $886 billion defense policy just before leaving Washington for the holidays. The National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2024 passed 310 to 118, with a majority of Republicans and Democrats voting for it. In addition to laying out the next year's Pentagon policy priorities, this year's bill also included an extension of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA, Sector 702, and a tool that allows the intelligence community to spy on foreign nationals outside the U.S. without a warrant, even if the person is outside of their communications, is an American citizen, right? Many Republicans, excuse me. Many Republicans are annoyed with this. They found out, hey, you're extending something that's unconstitutional. You're spying on your own citizens. This is government overreach. Critics says the tool has been abused by intelligence community to spy on Americans, especially right now that a lot of conservatives don't trust the FBI, especially they rating seemingly people who are politically opposite to the Democrat worldview. So I understand why a lot of the, Republicans are against this. A lot of conservatives are hating this, libertarians as well. While its supporters argue it's a vital tool for preventing terror attacks. You know what else is a vital tool in preventing terror attacks? Border security, patching up the wall, right? Not having America an open border where anyone can just walk in and we're supposed to take care of them, right? Not making America an asylum country or something. That can help with terror attacks too, because they don't even have the opportunity to get in. But, if you have an open border, yeah, this is necessary. But they kind of, you get me? They're kind of creating their own necessity here. But, I digress. Sector 702 extension was opposed by both conservatives and progressives who have said it impedes civil rights, including the right to privacy. Hardliners within the GOP also criticized the NADA, the product of a compromise with the Democratic-controlled Senate, for removing culture war provisions on transgender surgeries, abortion, and other issues that were present in the House version. So, I kind of want to move from here, but I want to continue on this topic. I think the cultural provisioning stuff, I'm of the opinion that I don't want to do things through the federal government. I think I want the federal government to merely act as an abstract template for the states. I'm starting to believe in state rights more than federal government. I think my dream solution, if I was president, is to chop down the provisions that federal government has. Federal government has a lot of things. And I would cut down the overreach, the amount of power that the federal government has. I think that's one thing I would try to focus on. And give a lot of these issues, like the cultural war stuff, and give it more to the states. Right? So then a conglomerate of states can decide, okay, hey, we're not against this stuff. Hey, we ban transgender surgeries here. Instead of trying to force top down all these provisions onto all the countries in America. Right? Because I think the trade-off I'm making here is that I believe in the conservatives enough where if they fight the culture war, they're able to convince people within their states and they change it. You get me? It's like a game of not Risk. I forgot the game. But it essentially is, hey, there's a map. These people are pro-life states, let's say, and these are pro-death states, right? And during the culture war, as sentiments change, states start flipping, and it's a better signifier of public perception and public view on an issue. How many states are pro this? Oh, okay. How many states are pro that? Instead of having it in the federal government where it's top down and it's less ambiguous, is more ambiguous on where the country actually stands legally on a lot of these issues. So removing cultural provisions from the federal government, I think this is a good thing, right? I know a lot of conservatives, especially the culture war hawks, really hate the fact that they did this. The Freedom Caucus, here's a comment from them. We do things like what we did today. The Freedom Caucus will absolutely be a problem, he added. Incoming chair of the ultra-conservative House Freedom Caucus said after the vote, if Speaker Johnson does the things that Republicans across the country elected us to do, we'll have the greatest advocates, greatest partners, and his greatest cheerleaders. I can understand that sentiment, but this man had to make a compromise, right? Defense hawks and more establishment Republicans who supported the NDAA loaded its inclusion of a 5.2% pay raise for the military within the GOP is particularly honing in on its inclusion of a ban on teaching critical race theory in service, academics, and Pentagon-run schools, right? So I guess honoring its inclusion of a ban. So they banned critical race theory in the government. I mean, in the Pentagon. I don't think that really matters for, everyday conservatives like us, because when we worry about critical race theory, we're not worried about grown people being indoctrinated with this stuff. We were worried about kids, right? But I digress. Was this a betrayal on our basis? In a conservative commentator here. In case you were not paying attention, the House of Representatives, under the leadership of Speaker Johnson, passed the defense bill, a $866 billion legislation that was stripped of all the demands by the Republican base on abortion, diversity, and transgender rights. Note, the bill's called the National Defense Authorization Act, has been decisive. We already know the vote count. It includes money for Ukraine and Israel, which I disagree with. I did not want that money in, and I think that maybe Republicans didn't need to compromise here. I thought the compromise would be for Israel, but nothing would get passed. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Politicians put themselves in a position where they have to be like, oh, I had to do it. If you get what I'm trying to say, right? They put themselves where they have to do like last minute things, and then they can blame the fact that, oh, we was in a time crunch. We didn't have time to negotiate and do all this stuff. So they can feign like, oh, we had to do it, when they could have made these demands a lot clearer, and they could have done, like, let the government shut down. I think if the government shut down, people will look at it more on the Democrat side than the Republican side, right? But I don't know. I think this is a bad habit, and in the future, if we still have a Republican Party, right, we get more politicians that are willing to stand on their principles and be like, hey, no funding for Israel, no funding for Ukraine. Government shut down, government shut down. The bill includes more warrantless spying on Americans, bad thing. The bill also includes funded abortions and things like sex changes. That I do not agree with at all. Right? The good part, the NZ cover aspects of national security, including military partnerships, structural improvements at the defense of 5.2. Okay, that's fine. We read that already. The compromise remove, we said that already. So he's pretty much explaining everything that we just did, and they're going to get it signed. Biden's expected to sign it. So, yeah, Biden's expected to sign it. We got Brandon Johnson. I don't know how people feel about Speaker Johnson. There's a photo out there where Speaker Johnson looked like he had his head down and he looked depressed, and you saw Paul Ryan all preppy and happy. So people are trying to say that Speaker Johnson might be still inexperienced and he's being run around in circles or something. I don't know, man. I just think we can learn from today and realize that in the future, the government, I think the way the conservative movement is trending, there will be less corruption in the government. Kevin McCarthy is happy as hell, right? He's about to leave the year. He's about to go into the private sector. There's videos of him breakdancing, happy as heck about the bill, right? And honestly, I think a lot of these politicians don't care about the future. And honestly, we're going to suffer this. I'm a millennial. Whatever they're doing here, the consequences, the repercussions, the results of these policies, we're going to feel the effect of those. But, I digress. So we're finally on the last part of the stream, which is the victimhood hierarchy. So we're going to talk about victimhood. We're talking about victimhood. So Matt Walsh had a video that I found completely interesting. It was called the victimhood hierarchy. And it kind of explains what's been going on. If you just came in, I was talking about how, we got people here just because black people are getting declined more on the bank loan, they think it's racism. We have young people right here, 18 to 24, who support the idea that white people are oppressors and that they're harmful. And they don't think that this ideology is harmful to society, even though the majority of other people outside of that age group, they think this idea of white people being oppressors are harmful. This is all being driven by victim hierarchy, which has been slowly transmitted into our education system, into our college system, and has been conditioning our youth to come to certain conclusions that the left want them to come to. So I digress. Let's get into the video. And here's Matt Walsh presenting victim hierarchy.
Well, if you want to understand leftism in the modern age, and by extension our culture, you need to first understand what I call the victim hierarchy. If you understand the victim hierarchy, you understand everything. And so you need to understand how it works. So we're going to run through it today, this kind of tutorial, which will tell you everything you need to know about leftism and about our culture by extension. Now, the victim hierarchy is a pyramid. You could also call it the victim pyramid, VH or VP, it's up to you. At the base of the pyramid, you have white men. That's the lowest ranking. They cannot be victimized by anyone, and yet they victimize everyone else. What you have to understand is that victimization flows up on the pyramid, so it's a little counterintuitive. The higher you are on the pyramid, the more victimized you are, and yet the more powerful you are.
Summed them up right? I mean, I show you examples of this already, right? If you're a white man, the worst thing since sliced bread. You're the worst thing since the devil, essentially. You probably are the devil, right? You're the most dangerous animal on the planet, according to woke movies catering to black people, right? And it's because of this victim hierarchy. This is the left's, like, it's funny how a lot of the leftists will be Marxists and they say, "Oh, we are not classists. We want to destroy what was it? The hierarchy, the class of people. We want to break down classes, right? The working class, whatever." But the most prosecuted people is a contradiction. It's a reversal. Now it's white people. If you're a woman, you can get away. "Oh, I'm a woman," but white man, you kind of left out. Craziness. It's crazy how we have come full circle culturally to the point where there was a time period before Obama, racism was on its way out. And then after Obama got in, then he put in the federal, whatever, all these woke professors started cramming up this ideological tilt. And in 10 years, boom, different America. Younger people coming in, and you see the young people coming up now, 18 to 24, believe that white people are oppressors. Oh my God, wait until they get older. Wait until they start getting into positions of power. The discrimination will be even worse. And all this because of this ideology of hierarchy. This is discrimination, bro. Like, hey, because of your skin color, you have the same actions that's done to you is not perceived the same as if it was done to another of a different race. Imagine that. And this is why I think segregation is going to come back. We're progressing towards regress. Like, we are regressing as a culture because of this ideology. And there's people on the left that think this is progress. We're literally dividing people based on their identity. And we think this is going to be progress. We think no negative ramification is going to come out of this. At least if you're on the left, you don't think so. This is only going to perpetuate more racism. But I digress. I rambled too long.
Now, next you have white women, and they're still pretty low on the ranking, but they can at least be victimized by white men. So they have one victim point. Victim points are determined by how many other groups can victimize you. So you can tally a group's victim points simply by counting how many groups are underneath them on the pyramid. It makes it very easy to do. Now, flowing up from there, right above white women, we have disabled people. Now, this is a large category, and it's, in fact, getting larger by the day because what counts as a disability keeps expanding by the day. But, of course, there are just like the classic disabilities we all recognize: blind, deaf, wheelchair-bound, etc. And these are going to kind of be the anchor points for the disabled category of the victim pyramid. Now, these people are group 3, and so they are automatically victimized by the 2 groups below them, which gives them 2 victim points. Next, and this gets a little confusing, we have fat people, the obese. Sometimes obesity is counted as a disability, sometimes it isn't. But
which we noticed with the airplane, the Southwest Airlines airplane video that I did, where now there's a customer of size thing, and it's almost you giving special consideration for someone based on how they chose to be in a way, right? You may not have mean to be fat, but your actions, like your fatness, is a result of your actions and behaviors. You didn't control how much food you ate. You controlled how much exercise you do in a day. You chose not to do it, and that was the result. Your body. You're 200 pounds. You're taking up 2 seats. And now airplane companies are expected, because fat people on TikTok, these traveler influencers on TikTok complain so much, these companies finally caved, and they created policies where they can take an extra seat for free. And there's going to be negative ramifications for everyone. You inconvenience other people. Tickets may be more expensive to account for the event that so many fat people go into the airplane and they take a lot of unused seats. They don't care. Fat people are like, I want to feel comfortable being the way that I am. And this is why I say shame needs to come back. Shame is an incentive, just like praise is an incentive. Whatever you praise, you get more of. Whatever you shame, you get less of. And I think we will benefit as a society, especially in America, with a 41% obesity rate. We can benefit a lot by starting to shame some of this negative behavior, because it doesn't look good on us as a culture, right? We got we got these people who feel entitled for the world to change and not themselves. These people believe the world should change and not them. When I grew up in a time where they say, if you want to change the world, you must first change yourself. But now those people don't believe that. If you want to change the world, you must change the world first, then yourself. It's crazy, but I digress. This is the victim hierarchy. So you saw it. Fat people, kind of disability, kind of above, whatever. They fighting for it, but they're oppressed by white people, white women, whatever, right? White men, white women. You see the hierarchy here. So you saw them on the lower podium, but transgenders at the top, obviously, because they're demanding all of society to conform to their views. And you see the kind of incentive we're building in our society now. You see why transgenderism, LGBTQ, there's a social contagion. Why more liberal areas tend to have higher LGBTQ people and LGBTQ kids than more conservative places. It's something that is taught to these kids. Kids are being taught to be this way, or influenced to go down this life path and try to identify with that movement. Because as a kid, to me, if a kid's under the age of 11, I don't believe kids have sexuality like that. So an identity based on sexuality, I don't think it's a genuine condition for kids. I don't believe in LGBTQ kids, because I'm like, yo, you're not sexually active. How do you know what that is? Unless someone put that idea on you. That's why conservatives tend to say groomer. Oh, you try to groom my kids because you're trying to give him suggestive programming. That's why we don't like LGBTQ theme books in our schools. And it's our right as parents to filter out things that we don't feel comfortable our kids reading. But liberals want to sit here and cry, oh, no, they should read this. Okay, have your own kids to read it. Oh, wait, you don't. You try to have our kids. And that's the problem. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You don't want kids, but you want to sit here and dictate to conservatives what they should do with their kids. What education and what materials their kids are exposed to. You want to dictate that. This is the problem with liberals. But I digress. Let's get back into the video.
The group is large enough, no pun intended, that it needs its own category. The plus size community has been sort of climbing the hierarchy in recent years, which has been really good exercise for them. Now, the obese have 3 categories below them, which means that they have 3 victim points. Now we get to the part where the rubber meets the road. What is called our premium victim categories, PVC. Now, at this stage, every victim point is multiplied by 2. There is a ×2 bonus for getting to this point on the victim pyramid. I'll show you how it works. The first group in the premium category are black men. Now, for the purpose of this demonstration, in order to keep things as simple as possible, black will include all racial minorities. Of course, in reality, there's a separate victim ranking of racial minorities that tends to change rapidly over time as different groups vie for greater victim status. For right now, we're all going to include them as under the black category, or we could just say people of color. Now, black men, therefore, have 4 victim points times the premium victim bonus, which makes 8 points. What's next? Obviously, next would be black women, who are victimized by black men, fat people, disabled people, white women, and white men. Those are...
Yo, the math is mathing, bro. The math is mathing, bro. It makes perfect sense, bro. Like, this is a game of hierarchy. This is a game of status, right? Before, in society, in a meritocratic society, we used to reward people who is the most competent, the most proficient, the most skilled, the most talented. Now in our culture, now in our society, we praise people to be who is the biggest victim. Oh, you're a black man. Oh, you this. Oh, look at me. I experienced racism my whole life. I faced sexism my whole life. I don't make the same money as men. Is that because I work less hours? I take more vacation time than men, and I tend to not negotiate my salary less often than men. No, that's not the reason for pay disparities. It's because of sexism. That's the game that society rewards today. And you see it. This is why I say victimhood is a social contagion in our society. Everyone's trying to find their lane in this hierarchy. Illustrated by Matt. Eloquently illustrated by Matt. Let's continue with the video.
All of the victimization flows up through those groups, and black women are getting all of that. And this gives them a gross of 5 victim points, but a net of 10 when you add the premium victim bonus. Gays, lesbians, and other non-hetero sexual orientations fall just above black women. They are victimized by an impressive tally of 6 other groups. Ooh. And then our premium victim bonus kicks in. And what do? You get 12 victim points. And that is where the LGB land on the pyramid. But of course, I have not mentioned the T.
Oh, hey girl, get over here. Let's talk some
That's because the T sits at the top, the very top of the pyramid. Nobody can out-victim the T. The victims who are the victims of all other victims, they stand at the pinnacle of the victim hierarchy, which means...
And this is why they get all society to kind of conform to their language. This is why they compete in women's sports. Why now the new woman is a man. Why a guy called, he used to be named Bruce Jenner, he could come in his first year of being a woman and he wins Woman of the Year. It's crazy. People who've been women their whole lives, this dude in 1 year, he beat all of them. It's crazy. It's crazy, right? But this is what we're rewarding in our society, right? There's a famous saying, show me the incentives and I'll show you the outcome. So now Matt is going to get into the multiplier point where he starts talking about how this stuff multiplies, as in, you know, if you're a gay, obese, black woman, the level of math that Matt do here is, I find it very comical. Shout out Donald Martin. Appreciate you showing up and chatting in the comment section. Let's get back into the video.
That they are the most victimized, which means that they have the most victim points and therefore the most power. And here we introduce what is called the Apex Victim Multiplier, AVM. Whatever group sits at the top, the apex victim, earns their 7 victim points, but then they also earn a multiple of 10, which means that trans people have not 7 or even 14 victim points, but they have 70.
Well, no one's gonna top that.
Here's where things get tricky. What about the crossover in groups? A fat woman is below a black woman on the hierarchy, but what about a fat black woman? Where does she rank? How do we make sense of a gay, black, fat, deaf man in a wheelchair? Is he above black women on the pyramid, or is he still below? Can a white woman leapfrog over black men and black women if she's also a member of some of these other categories?
Goddamn.
Is there anything that a white man like myself can do to get out from the bottom of this whole heap?
Like he's articulating with math. You know, math is so logical, it's so linear. Math is fantastic. There's a reason why they say people who are good at math tend to be good at critical thinking. This man, this is a perfect video to illustrate what the hell is going on in our society. This is the game that people are playing, bro. This is why Dylan Mulvaney is famous as he is, because he's stacking up all these. Oh, I'm a transgender man. All this. I'm famous, and what the algorithm rewards him with views, money. A company paid him, I think, 6 figures to destroy their company, Bud Light. He got paid, I don't know what, $40,000 to speak to an empty auditorium at a college campus. All because of what? He's a transgender woman. This is the game now. This has now been glorified by our society as being the marker of valor, virtue, and success in our society. And if we don't challenge this, it's going to get out of control. We're rewarding people who live in fantasies instead of living in reality. Crazy world we live in. Crazy world we live in.
How do we sort through this? It seems sort of overwhelming. Well, don't worry, it's not as difficult as it seems at first. Following the intersectional victim calculus, IVC, all you have to do is add the total points of every group a person belongs to. So let's do the math. Let's say that a white woman, very low-ranking member of the victim hierarchy, is also disabled and fat and bisexual. Well, now she has her 1 victim point plus 2 for disabled, 3 for fat, and 12 for bisexual. Now she has 18 total victim points, which puts her comfortably above a normal non-gay, non-fat, non-disabled black man or woman. Now, there's one important note here. You cannot cash in multiple times in the disabled category.
What?
So if you are blind and also in a wheelchair, That's only 2 victim points. Those are the rules. I'm not saying I agree with them. It's just how it goes.
Forgive me, Master.
You may have noticed that because of the apex victim multiplier, no non-trans person can get anywhere close to the trans victim point tally. Trans will always remain the top victim, which means that even that lowly white man all the way at the bottom with his 0 victim points, even he can easily rocket all the way to the top just by coming out as trans. A black man who has done a lot of work to become fat and gay and everything else, who has secured a position in 4 or 5 other categories, will still have to bow before the white man as the top victim if he, the white man, simply identifies as a woman. Now,
Matt just illustrated the Victim Olympics. The Victim Olympics is something that I think was coined by Vivek Ramaswamy on his when he went on a show with Bill Maher. Well, not Bill Maher. Yeah, it was Bill Maher. I reacted to the video, and Matt just with math. Oh my God, perfect. I think this is a video that is required watched by everyone, so everyone understands what the hell's going on here. That he just illustrated the Victim Olympics. The game that they're all trying to play. It's calculated. That's why when some people saying, yo, I don't think so, you're like, you see it. It's trendy to be transgender. Why? Because you get these, he called it victim points, but I call them social points. That's a social credit. Social credit score. Hey, I'm this, I'm that. As a blank person, people give you, I guess, some type of, I want to say fame. They give you some type of recognition for that. Oh, you're a black woman. Oh my God. I know how much you had to fight to get to this position. Oh, people bend over backwards because you're perceived higher on the victim hierarchy. And that's what people want. It's in our nature. We want recognition as a human species. It's in our nature to want validation, status, recognition, fame. And if someone told you, hey, if you play this victimhood game, you can require all that. Bruh, is it any surprise why the younger you go, the more prominent this stuff is? How our youth is what, 20% of Gen Z identify as gay, LGBTQ, or trans? Is it any surprise? This is what society has shown the young people. This is what gets you validation. This is what gets you recognition in our society. And it's up to us to push back against this stuff, bro. Or else we won't have a normal future, bro. We won't. We got to fight for the future. And to fight for the future, you had to fight for your culture. I digress.
Let's say the black man comes out as a woman. Well, then he, once again, is going to be above the white man in the trans tier. Although trans is at the top, that category is itself subdivided depending on the race, weight, disability status, etc. of any individual trans person. This does get confusing because the trans victim subdivisions follow the same logic as the overall victim pyramid, except that trans women who are actually male slide in above trans men who are actually female.
What?
On the broader pyramid, being female buys you points, right?
Oh my God.
But once you make it into the top echelon, the trans tier, being female makes you male, which subtracts your points. So a black woman who comes out as trans will now be below a black man who comes out as trans as the sexes have switched. What this means is that if you want to build the uber ultimate unbeatable victim, the emperor of the whole victim pyramid, you need to start with a black man. That's going to be the best canvas upon which you can paint.
That man said black men have the biggest potential to be victims in our society. What the hell, bro? Yo. And I could legitimately believe that there's some I mean, there's been stories where a couple came out and the dude was like, oh yeah, I'm a man, I'm a woman in the relationship. No, he was like trans masculine. I forgot. This black guy, he was dating some white girl, and the white girl says, oh, I'm masculine. I'm the masculine one in this relationship. And the guy was like, no, I'm the feminine one in this relationship. And everyone kind of exposed them as, no, you guys are doing this for clicks, for views. I can see someone masterminding trying to do this though. I'm just saying, like, I mean, nothing surprised me in our culture today because it seems like a lot of people are willing to do a lot of things for attention. I'm not willing to sell my dignity for attention. I'm sorry. I'm going to sit here, talk on this microphone. I don't care if you told me, kid, you wear a dress. If you act like a female, you will get 100,000 views on your video. I'm not going to do none of that. I was like, nah, you either come here to listen to my voice hear my opinion, hear my my thoughts and perspectives, or you don't watch the video. I'm not going to sit here and make a mockery of myself, but that's values that's passed down to me. Younger kids ain't going to see it the same way I do. This is why I said when they doing stuff in the culture, it's not necessarily to influence us, right? When they push dinks, sinks, they're pushing all these concepts on online. They're not necessarily targeting us. They're targeting younger people, like 11-year-olds, because they're more impressionable than us adults. That's who they're really after. And that's why I say parents apart. This is, hey, look, this is, you don't have to take this advice. This is my unsolicited parenting advice as a parent. My kid's not getting no social media. I'm sorry. They're not getting no smartphone from me. I'm sorry. Nope. Son, if you're watching this years from now, no iPhone for you. No Android for you. No smartphone for you. That's going to be my policy. And oh, Kenny, how can you stop that? Who's going to buy it for him? I'm not going to accept any presents. I ain't going to accept no technology. The only computer access he's going to have is this laptop right in front of me. That's it. That's the only thing he's going to have access to. Because social media, I think, is the biggest. It's almost like a virus. It's a contagious virus. Social media opens you up to bad ideas, and that can contaminate the mind of your children who are unprepared, who don't have the mental immune system to counteract what they observe online. They're not mature enough. That's the quick answer of that. The video is almost done. So 30 more seconds, and then we'll wrap up with my final thoughts. And let's get back into it.
Ain't the ultimate victim. With that building block, you can assemble a victim who is more victimized than any other victim. So if you are therefore a straight black man of average weight and physical capability, you may only have a few victim points, but if you dream big enough and put in the work, you could be the greatest victim of all. Remember, I didn't make these rules. I'm only here to tell you what they are. And well, there they are.
That was a masterful video from Matt Walsh. I think that was the best illustration of the Victimhood Olympics ever. I think there would be, this is pretty much sums up exactly the game that's being played in our culture today. But, I digress. I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I hope you guys, I hope the week wasn't too stressful for any of you guys. I hope to see you guys soon. Before I leave, let me know your thoughts about some of the segments, what you guys want to hear more of during these live streams, podcasts, the style type stuff that I'm trying to do. I'm open to new ideas as always. And don't forget to like the video on your way out. I really do appreciate it. It really helps push the videos forward. And I will see you guys on the next Live with Kenny. See you guys next week. Peace. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and goodbye.